When you find yourself on vacation, the environment shifted, but you haven't. There's plenty of people who never take advantage of the environments that we live in. Well, you're not going to take advantage of it unless you build your life around taking advantage of it. And that tends to be uncomfortable in the best kind of way. It's actually going to help you on the adventures you end up going on. To have the experience of exactly what you're looking for, what your heart of hearts, you're craving, the experience you're craving when you're on an adventure, but you don't have to wait to go on an adventure to have that experience. And that's the magic. You're relating with the time and the space and your body and all the things consistently. And that consistency is what creates the skill set to really be excellent in any context that you find yourself in. As humans, we prefer the path of least resistance. We crave convenience, the payoff without the price. But when our lives revolve around comfort, it doesn't deliver. Living in perpetual comfort leaves us weak and asleep. This podcast is an invitation to flip that script, to choose the unlikely path, to get the life you really want through voluntary discomfort. This is Strong and Awake. I'm Dane Sanders.
As part of the series, we've talked about a lot of commitments, of resolutions, of things that people are excited about. And of course, we've covered, your typical ones. I want to get in better shape. I want to quit something. But one that really stood out to us as we converse with more people about these things is this idea of traveling. I want to travel more. I want to get out there and explore. And I'm really excited about this one. I think there's lots of things that we can cover and lots of great things that we've already discussed ahead of this recording. And yes, we're going to be sharing some ideas and some ways that we can kind of move towards this goal and beyond just how to fold your clothes and pack them without wrinkles or, a minimalist travel backpack or something like that.
Hey, by the way, quick shout out to Chase Reeves, my guy.
Chase Reeves. Yes,
Let's
exactly.
Go. If you want those things, you want the right bag and all the, go check out my boy Chase Reeves on the internet.
Yeah. He's got you covered with the bags, the barefoot shoes, anything that you would need for that category of what we're talking about.
That's right.
And there's lots of great resources about that. And we'll talk about some of, our kind of suggestions or recommendations for the travel itself. But what's more exciting to me is the problems with travel, or the problem with this whole idea and this notion of I want to travel more, and some of the roadblocks that we might hit or misconceptions about this. So I'd love to pass the baton to you. I set you up to talk about the problems, Dane. I'd love to hear.
Well, yeah. And before I say too much, I just want to qualify the statement that I grew up in East Coast Canada, about as far away from Southern California as you can get and stay on the same continent. And I love my hometown. I love growing up Canadian, but I've basically been traveling for 3 decades. And adventuring. So I'm a big fan. When I was 19, I was living by myself in Australia, bought a plane ticket. People I live with, I met on the plane. I'm into this adventure travel thing. I think it's fantastic. But I promise some of the things that we get into right now, if you're listening, you're going to be able to relate to this, because there's people who travel and adventure really, really well, and there's people who travel and adventure really, really poorly. Not that they're bad, wrong, or broken as people. It's a skill set. And we take our travel and adventure very seriously. And I think the first thing to note is we don't start with the expensive vacation. That's not the place to begin. And there's a bunch of reasons why. And I want to be really clear about this, that the first thing, and it's a little bit heady, but hang with me for a second. If your adventures and vacations from the routines of life are all out there, meaning they're beyond, you think of COVID, when COVID happened, there's something that's shut down the possibility. There's my brother-in-law had this amazing trip with his family planned for Europe right around COVID. And guess what? It went away. Plane shut down, the world shut down. So does that mean for 2 years, no travel and adventure for him? Well, it does if you're dependent on the thing out there. What if, and this is where we're going to have some really fun conversation, there could actually be some things in here that actually are available to us when it comes to travel and adventure. But I'll get to that in a minute. Second, it's expensive to travel and adventure. And I know people want to do it more. They want experiences. We live in a world flooded with images and messages around everyone else's amazing life that you're not having. And it's really, through comparison and envy, tempting to go, oh, if only I had those experiences, then I would be having a good life. And maybe, but there's expense not only with money, and some of the things we're going to talk about with travel and expense will not require money in the same way, at least, but it also requires time, and time away, time where you're kind of in essence saying, like, your life is what it is, but it's really a setup so that you can have the life that's truly life out there on the travel and adventure scene. What if they're actually the same realities? You're actually having a life right here that's incredible. And if you happen to be on some volcano in Hawaii, or you're, doing whatever you're doing, wherever you're doing it, bungee jumping down in New Zealand, like whatever your thing is, right? Your travel and adventure thing. What if they actually were on par with your daily life, actually aligned travel and adventure with the times when you do go and spend all that time and money? The other challenge, especially if you're oriented around this, like I'm doing my life until I can go do that thing, is that thing is going to come. If you're fortunate enough to have all things aligned and you have the money and time, it's going to come and then it's going to go. And you're going to be left with a sense of like, well, what's next? What if I just had the next adventure, the next thing? And a lot of people do life this way, right? They're like valley, 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 little peak, valley, 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 little peak. And they call that living. Maybe. I don't think so. I don't think that's the way to get the most out of it. So the insatiable sense of like, I just need more adventures is problematic. Well, what if those were just like accents on an already fantastic existence? And then the last piece I really want to focus on is some people are just really bad at adventure. They're bad at having a good time. They're and when I say bad, I don't mean morally bad. I just mean they're unskilled, because it's not accurate to think if I just found myself in some exotic place, I'd be having a good time. There's a lot. Go to Disneyland for 10 minutes and look around and you can see a lot of people who saved a lot of money and finally got there, and they are having a miserable experience at Disneyland, especially if their children are under 4 and it's 2 p.m. So, well, I guess at that point they might have eaten and had a nap. Who knows what's going on? But like,
not in Disneyland. I've never had success in that front. Yeah.
But anything you'd add, Mitch, or strike you about some of the things that we need to address in this conversation in order for folks to really be positioned to get the highest and best out of these resolves?
I think that really covers a lot of it. I mean, what I'd love to kind of dig into is that, I mean, all of the things that you've talked about, but especially that kind of that cultural trap that we fall into, that kind of consumeristic mindset of like, if I get this, this will fulfill X, or this will solve all my problems. And I think that's what a lot of people look to travel as. And it's almost like we create it to be this resolution to everything, this solve, because there's some kind of comfort in that of, yes, I'm enduring this miserable reality right now, or I'm navigating this, but there's this promise out there. And I think the reality is that, like, even if people never achieve that, they take some kind of comfort, like your Kierkegaard, like, quote, it's like,
man finds a level of despair he can tolerate and calls it happiness.
Yeah. They just say like, well, that's out there and I can't have that, but like, at least it's out there. So I know, like, my suffering, like I'm not suffering alone, or I'm not suffering without meaning. And it's just like, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be out there. And I think this also bleeds into so much of how we go through life too. Like in parenting, we look to that vacation, we look to that trip to, like, batch all of our memories or batch all of our bonding. Like, yeah, I don't have time for my kid right now, or I'm not able to put my phone down to just engage in a conversation or play a silly game that doesn't make any sense, is not productive. But like, I don't have time for that. But guys, we're going to Disneyland, or I'm going to be spending all this money on this big trip where we can make all of our memories and have all of our connections. But the reality is, like, that's not what they want. That's not what they need. And that's not how it works. So I think this kind of mindset isn't just reserved to like our desire to adventure and travel, but I think it is also this kind of framework that we apply to all kinds of decisions in the moment that we make and justify in our lives.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's this distinction between like we want the result without the process. A little while ago, I saw a video of Seth Godin at a TED Talk he gave a long, long time ago, maybe a decade ago, where he brought a clarinet out on stage, and he talks about how he spent 8 years learning the clarinet, and then one day he went to the symphony and heard somebody play a middle C, which is the easiest note to play on the clarinet, first thing they teach you. And he's like, 8 years I've been playing it. But then he actually heard what a middle C was supposed to sound like or could sound like. One note. And then, and it all became really clear to him. The contrast of this epic thing with what he could perform with, there was such a divide. He realized, I actually didn't want to get good at the clarinet. It became really evident because of the result, right? So even to pause and consider, like, when you look at these social media feeds that are communicating people, giving messages of how people are experiencing it, let's pretend for a second it's not all fiction. Let's pretend actually there's people out there that are experiencing those amazing moments. Consider the idea for a second that it's not just that they're privileged and in a position to do something, but they're actually in that space in a way. They are where their way of being is there in a way where they're present to it. And the test for it is if you took them out of that exotic land and you put them in their life when their kids are sick and the projects are, pinging and all the things are pulling us in all these different directions. Do they have the same kind of serenity that they look like they have when they're sitting at the beach or they're, hiking the fjord or whatever they're doing? And the disposition is the tell. Their way of being is the tell. That they have likely a skill that can show up everywhere all the time. And ultimately, that's what we're looking to appeal to. And the crazy thing is, the amazing thing is, you can actually get it by looking at your life as an adventure, as a travel adventure on the daily. Like today, every single 24-hour window, I actually could have a trip, a real trip, a travel adventure where I get to go somewhere and relate with that space and place in such a way that I become really excellent at being over there if I'm on vacation, or being right here in the midst of the chaos. There's something in how we do the thing that could open it up. But it fundamentally, to your point, Mitch, it understanding that having that result, being that kind of skilled person, whether it's playing the clarinet or traveling or whatever, requires a commitment to process, to become that person, actually to embrace that process. The other night I was on a run at night, so I'm wearing a headlamp. I had my dog Luna with me, and I was just it was bliss. It was bliss. Like, the weather was right, the terrain was great, I was cruising, and it occurred to me, like, one way to relate with this is, I just hit it right. The temperature was right and everything was great and I didn't roll my ankle and everything's awesome. Or another way to look at it is, how did I find myself here? I've logged hundreds and hundreds of miles to be in a position where this is my reality. This is my experience. Like, I have the right gear. I'm in the right place. My dog isn't biting the leash or running away after a rattlesnake or a rabbit, or like we've had reps. We actually have embraced the process. And that's actually what set the table for that kind of incredible experience. And it was funny, it was dark out. I could have been in Hawaii. I happened to be in Southern California, but I could also be in Albuquerque. Like, it wouldn't have mattered. It was the adventure internally that was reflected in the adventure externally. And what we want to make the case for today is you can have both. You can have it all, but you're not going to get it all if you degrade it down to, I'm going to pay for vacation all-inclusive package on some boat. Because we know this. We just know. Miserable people spend half their vacation like just coming off of their daily life. And then they finally get ready to vacate and they're done with their vacation and they're back home again.
Yep.
So let's talk about a different way, a different approach where it's not so narrow. It's not the usual way to vacation. And even the word vacation, vacate your life to go pretend like to have a minute before you come back to the dread of your life. Like,
right.
Why? Like, doesn't make sense to me. But adventure makes sense.
Right. Adventure or a holiday. Maybe. Right. Maybe that's more accurate.
Yeah, again, like I like holiday because you think of like people in spiritual communities who have like one day a week who take a pause, take a beat, they rest, they don't consume, they're not productive, they're grateful. Like that kind of holiday makes sense to me. And that holiday, 7-day window, why not have a holiday once a week? Sounds like the Jewish people with Shabbat. I mean, brilliant. Brilliant. And no surprise, the Christians followed suit. They learned, right? And I think that idea is really helpful. It is good to recover. It is good to rest. And that could be lost a little bit in what I've said so far, that it is good to, in a sense, leave the daily grind for a space and place to rest and recover. But what I think most people have stated in their desires for a certain kind of New Year's resolution, at least in our research, has been, it's not quite that. It's not like rest and recovery and unplugging and all. It's more like, I just need to go see more of the world. I need to have more experiences. And that's the part that skill is required. And even resting and recovering, skill is required. But
totally.
All those things are going to get addressed in what we think is a new path forward.
Yeah. And I can speak as someone who's had the privilege of growing up in a place where people vacation. Like I grew up in Hawaii. Like it is about that mindset and like how you approach things, because I went through my life. It would only be when people would visit that I'd like, my eyes would be open to realize like, oh, what do I have right in front of me? So it's amazing the ability that we have as humans to like adjust to our current reality and like down calibrate or up calibrate based on that. The other thing that struck me too is, when you're talking about, it's not just about like going and paying for this luxury cruise or whatever. It's a skill that we can cultivate in our day to day. Like the people that do have that skill and go on those cruises or whatever, it's like this force multiplier. Like they can enjoy those that much more. They don't require that. And that's why I think it's so cool. We're not like poo-pooing any particular category of adventure or vacation or whatever. We're just saying like, if you're looking to that to solve all of your problems and you don't have the reps, you don't have the right mindset going into there, then no matter what you do, it's going to be a different experience than especially that you're hoping for if you have this, lofty dream of what that could be.
Well, and really the good news, I think, in all this is that not only will the rest of this conversation help you in your day-to-day life, it's actually going to help you on the adventures you end up going on. Which we're for. We want you to have the experience of exactly what you're looking for, what your heart of hearts, you're craving. But as well as Mitch and I know, that you've done versions of this, gotten to that place, and it didn't deliver. It didn't give you what you were looking for. And what we want to suggest is what you do at home is actually the place that sets you up to have the experience you're craving when you're on adventure. But you don't have to wait to go on adventure to have that experience. And that's the magic, because that exponential benefit that you're describing is the reason that's in place. Because just like mathematically, if you could have that every single day, every single week, and you happen to change location when it's happening, well, and that location is not only novel, but really interesting and aligned with what you care about, well, now it becomes magical because you're relating with the time and the space and your body and all the things consistently. And that consistency is what creates the skill set to really be excellent in any context that you find yourself in. And if you happen to be lucky enough to be in with Mitch and Maui, then all the better. Yeah. So,
I mean, I wouldn't be on Maui. Come on, I'd be
well,
on
I
the
mean,
Big
that's pretty
Island,
low
Dane.
grade. I
Come
get
on.
it. I know those
Yeah,
are
yeah.
tourists.
You would
that's
never
just...
find me in Maui. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so what I'd love to talk about is like there are people that are listening to this that are like, no, I'm telling you, when I'm on vacation, it's different. Like I do need that. I do need a change of environment. And I think probably what they might be experiencing is that shift. Like this environment change is forcing them to like go into it expectant almost. Like their eyes are open to, hey, what's going to happen today? There's this like almost anticipation of what could be that they have kind of exclusively reserved for that kind of new environment or this adventure or this thing in their calendar that they've designated as this is when I'm going to adventure. But what is it about those experiences that we often find inaccessible in the day-to-day, and how can we start to bring those into the mundane everyday life that or the grind, as you said earlier, that we might find ourselves in?
That's such a good question. I mean, I think you're right. Like when folks are primed for something new that they're excited about, that they actually have stake in, they have invested time and money toward and gone through the drill of all the details that it takes to pull those things off, it does set the table for anticipation. And probably that anticipation it really does serve people. What I'm curious about is why can't we organize our life in such a way that we wouldn't anticipate that every day we wake up, wherever we're at all the time? And I think this is where people settle. This is where they just kind of think that this is as good as it gets, whatever it is. And where we have found in a surprising way, and I'll give an analogy to this in a second, in our community at Men and Women of Discomfort, is that ironically, when you put yourself on the hook for hard things consistently and actually build your life around that, what ends up happening is it actually builds in the anticipation you're describing. There's a sense in which like no day is just another day. Every day brings with it like a consciousness. First of all, you're awake. It's uncomfortable. You're way more awake when you're suffering to anything, but you're also choosing it. So you have agency in the midst of that. And the combination of those things kind of it's almost like an analog to buying the plane ticket, getting there's preparation that's required. And as a result, there's anticipation that is tied to the preparation. Well, if you're going to have a life of voluntary discomfort for the sake of becoming who you've been made to become, you'll discover that a lot of preparation is required for that too. I need to prepare every single day for what I'm going to eat. I need to prepare every single day for how I'm going to move my body. I need to get, all right. And I don't just need to, I get to. It's like a privilege, just like it's a privilege to go on a vacation. And when people look at, like they frame in their mind, the day I'm in and the day that's coming are days that I actually can speak to and create adventure from. And the way to do that is to actually build in difficult things. I'm certainly awake. And every time I go and do that difficult thing, I become stronger in the process. And that hones your skill in your way of being with your day-to-day life. But extend that to you're on vacation, you're doing a hard thing. Like it's common in my experience when folks go on vacation, all of a sudden they go for a run on day one when they land and whatever. And good for you. But it's probably a painful run because you didn't run for the last 6 months. And now you're a little sore and you're coming back and it's like, oh, I better have you treat yourself to some kind of comfort. And then you have like whatever drill you go down, your usual patterns of the thing. It's funny, work trips, it's so common to go to a conference and on day if I have a chance to speak at something or whatever, I'll go to, or just attend, I'll go to it and you go to the workout room and it's packed on day one. And day two, you are by yourself. Nobody shows up. And it's so predictable. It's hilarious. But when this is what you do every single day and you prepare for it, not only get the anticipation, you get the benefit. You're getting stronger. You're more awake. You can take advantage of the day more. You have more of you to put into your day. And inevitably, like on those day twos of those kinds of conferencey moments, even in exotic lands, you're probably going to wake up on day two and you won't feel like it. It just, and this builds right into our methodology at MWOD, where we talk about, we commit to things and then we release on our preferences when we don't want to do it and do it anyways. And eventually we get to a place where we embrace it. And that combination of committing, releasing, embracing, it just invites us to define it even more terrain in our life, that we could apply the same ideas of committing, releasing, embracing towards hard things. And then we really begin to own it with our behavior. And you start practicing this on the daily at home. When you find yourself on vacation, the environment shifted, but you haven't. And you're able to take full advantage of the space that you're in. You mentioned earlier, like we both live in Southern California, or if you lived in Hawaii, or like places that people save up to come and visit. There's plenty of people who never take advantage of the environments that we live in, but they just pay the taxes, and it's dumb. They should totally move away to some inexpensive place. But if you're going to be here, take advantage of it. Well, you're not going to take advantage of it unless you build your life around taking advantage of it. And that tends to be uncomfortable in the best kind of way. And that's fundamentally what we recommend. Because when people do that and they build their life this way, like not just for a moment or a season, but like every 24-hour window of your life, it's not a have to. Friends, it is a privilege. And the reason I know this, and I know I'm on a rant right now, but it's critical to point this out. Mitch and I right now are in conversations, dear friends in our community, who are in involuntary discomforts, where opportunities are being taken away from them. They got a cancer diagnosis, or they have significant injury to part of their body, or disease, or whatever the thing is, or circumstances relationally, they're getting taken out for certain really difficult circumstances going on in their life. And the universal in all of them is all of a sudden the involuntary discomfort is waking them up to like, why haven't I taken advantage of the window when I wasn't under this kind of duress? Why did I have to wait until for me, it was a number of years ago, tore my Achilles tendon. I was like, I'd give my left arm to be able to run in that window of time. And I'm so glad that it woke me up. And this is where involuntary discomfort can serve us, but only if, when we get out of that season, we put it into action, or even in that season, we find a way to put it into action, to relate with it like it's something to embrace, even though it's painful.
Yeah. The reality is, like, when we're on those vacations, not only are we like open to that or anticipating some things, but we're also willing in weird ways to like step into certain voluntary discomforts, and we receive the benefit of it, but yet we don't make that correlation oftentimes. Like, it's like you do that Machu Picchu hike or whatever, or you go through the discomfort of like having to ask people for directions and navigate that, like all of these things that we avoid like the plague, yet we step into them when we're on this vacation or traveling or on holiday. And like, why not? Why aren't we bringing those things back? And how do we start to like kind of shift and anticipate in our day-to-day? Obviously we've got our, like you were saying, the certain habits that we can adopt into our daily rhythms and practices. But I'm curious in this context, what you would recommend, or what you've done, not even recommend, but what you yourself have done to begin to do this.
Well, I'll speak to our whole community, what we do. And it's certainly true in my life, but I think that one of the first things we do for our new members of our community, they do a thing called a future round. So for 12 weeks, their first 12 weeks, they're not actually men and women of discomfort. They're future men and women of discomfort. And that's the season that we're kind of famous for, where people know they make one choice to participate and we take over all their choices. And that's not quite accurate. They still have agency. They're doing their own thing. They can opt out any time, all that stuff. We tell them up front what those things are going to be, and they're saying they're going to do it. But the reason we remove that cognitive load of decision-making isn't just to get them into a process that they can adopt our modality. It's actually so that we can systematically direct them in as many facets of their life as possible. So we don't just discomfort new members with intermittent fasting, or when they do eat, what they eat is limited, or inviting them to drink a minimum of 96 ounces of water, or to get in cold showers, or to do anonymous good deeds for others, or to even call people that they have broken relationships with and reset in those relationships through creative, clever means, or working out 6 days a week, or forcing a rest day every 7 days, or getting online and communicating to your community that you've done your thing in the last 24 hours, or you didn't, or fessing up. And I could go on and on and on. Where the interest is not just to badger people and in many ways as possible, it's to actually comprehensively look at all the areas in our life where we could be on adventure, if and only if we would choose to be on adventure. And choosing to be on adventure is hard. It's complicated. We have hard lives. Like, I really do get why people settle. And it's one of the reasons why the future round is so helpful for so many people, because they're like, oh, because you made all these decisions for me, you put me in a position to be on adventure in all of these different categories with my heart and mind and soul and body, like in all the categories, and to do it in a way that's safe and you're not going to get, injured, that sort of thing. Once in a while, I guess people, roll an ankle or something, but like it's less about that. And it's more commonly people go, this was available to me my whole life, and I skipped it. I thought I'd get to it later. I do it when I'm on vacation. And what we've heard over and over again is like, oh, I could have a vacation every single day of my life. I could be on adventure every single day of my life. And where I will say we do vacate from life is we're weird. Like, we're a weird group of individuals who choose to do this. So in contrast with our neighbors in life who are trying to get their adventure from a cocktail at 4:00 or 4, or trying to get their adventure for, like, comfort solutions for adventure, there's no comparison. Sure, enjoy a cocktail here and there. I'm wearing a Guinness shirt, for goodness sakes. Like, I get it. Nothing wrong in finding the right appropriate spots to choose the thing that might be enjoyable. But what we're speaking to has more to do with a way of being, where I don't need the Guinness to have a good time. I'm having a good time, and the Guinness is secondary. And that's kind of what we're saying to vacations is, if you want an adventure, become an adventurer with your own life, with your own body. And in that practiced skill set, locate that woman or man in Hawaii or New Zealand or Buenos Aires or the Camino, or climbing
Canada.
the base camp or Canada. Let's go Nova Scotia.
Vacation in Canada.
We don't like to tell people in Nova Scotia because it's so special. I only want people to come.
Maybe
BC.
Like.
Yeah, I guess they can go to BC.
Victoria.
But wherever it is, once you get there, that person who's already good at adventuring will be actually adventuring. You don't have to wait half your vacation to vacate. You don't have to wait. You get it all, man. And that's at the heart of what we do at MWOD. We're not masochistic. We actually want you to have the life you've been dreaming of the whole time, which is why I think this resolution is so natural to have. But if you're going to have a New Year's resolution like travel and adventure, don't cheapen it by having be so limited to just when you happen to be spending a bunch of money and getting on an airplane. Friends, that is the context, not the content of your life. Work on the content of your life. That's where, when you land in that spot, you'll be all the more grateful.
Man, and in the same way, a lot of, MWODs that have completed their future round and MWODs that have done this for many rounds express is this feeling of freedom that comes. They went into this thinking, okay, I have to give up all these things and I have to add all these new things, and it's going to be so hard, but it'll be worth it because of this promise at the end. And they realize that actually they've been getting the benefits through all of this, sacrifice and radical kind of simplification. And they experience that kind of paradoxical freedom that comes with that. Just like vacations, like you would think you got less things available to you. You probably have a smaller space. You think about traveling or adventuring or backpacking or camping or even staying in a hotel. Like, you've got less space. You have less freedoms. You don't have your car with you. You don't have your things. But like, there's this kind of openness that you have to that adventure because your life has been kind of radically simplified in that context. And that's what a lot of these practices can lend you to. It goes back to kind of traveling light. There's amazing freedoms that come with becoming that kind of person and adventurer in the context that you're in, like you're saying. For those, we're coming up on time here. But for those that like want to start on this and start to kind of cultivate these kinds of practices, like what do you recommend is like that first step?
If you're committed to not doing it in community and you really want to just do it on your own, that's what I'll give to answer your question from that perspective. But I got to say up front, like, why are you trying to do this on your own? Like, there's a community of people who are doing it today and will be doing it again tomorrow, but you're not engaged with it. If you're compelled by any of this, especially if you feel kind of like sick to your stomach, like this sounds like a hard way to get the life that I really want. It is a hard way to get the life you really want, but it's way easier than doing it on your own. So if you want that, go to MWOD.io/apply. Consider that conversation. I think, and the community, I think you would really benefit from it. But let's say you want to test the idea out individually in advance. And I would say pick one little thing that is uncomfortable to you, but you're like, I'm just going to test Mitch and Dane out and their ideas for a second. And I'm going to just force myself to do one thing I really don't want to do and do it and not miss a single day for 90 days. And I don't care what it is. Just make it good. Here are the qualifiers. Make it good for you. Make it something that you don't want to do, but you know, if you do it, you'll be glad you did, and you never miss a day. If whatever that fits in that category, and let's brainstorm for a second. It's like, what would be some examples that come to mind when I say that to you? Like if you were on the receiving end of this advice, what one thing might you pick?
For me specifically, especially as it relates to appreciating where we're at, I think it would be something like going on a run on a new trail, like something like that. Good for me. Great. It gets me out, and I get to like actually open my eyes and appreciate.
Okay, but wait, I got bad knees. I got bad knees, Mitch. I got bad knees. What do I do? Because there's listeners who just 100%, heard that.
100%.
And there's other listeners who went, do you know how cold it is right now where I live? And there's other people who said, when the hell am I going to do that, man? I got to feed my kids and keep a roof over my head. So what do you say to those poor fools?
Oh, gosh. Well, there's no hope. You're stuck.
So good.
Sorry. Move to
I guess
California.
The life of life is not available to you. Sorry.
That's it.
Or maybe get a coat, get out in the cold. Maybe go for a walk if you can't run. Maybe whatever it is, man. Do the one thing. Mm-hmm. And if you want, for me, it was so pithy. It was flossing my teeth started my journey down this road. And I just didn't, we talked about this in the past. I don't want to bring it all up, but like, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be David Goggins to do this, but you just might become David Goggins if you do. That's the irony. It just takes that's just years, right? Of choosing the hard thing, and I'm not, there's a lot to David Goggins, the great things about David Goggins that sure. I think we all respect. So I'm with you, man. So whether it's a trail, whether it's given up, like if you happen to be listening to this and it's near January or whatever month you want to pick, you don't have to wait to January to give up booze. You could do it like give up booze for 3 months, see what happens. It's inconvenient. Like one of my favorite examples that is in the giving up category is our friend Claire. She just gave up. She's a single woman, comes home at night, has great habits in a bunch of categories in her life. And she's like, I don't like how I feel after I veg out watching TV every night because it's such a habit. I'm going to not do that for 90 days, see how that works. And she, after just a couple days, she's discovered like huge openings in her life, from reading to being with herself, to noticing how she's feeling, to opening up conversations with people when she's with others. Incredible. And I won't speak too much more for Claire, but friends, anything that's uncomfortable, you'll be better for it on the other side of it. It's minimal, as little as you can pull off, and you never miss a day. Do that for 90 days. That's the answer to my question, or to your question, Mitch. And if all that just sounds like, I don't know where to start, I don't know what to pick, just go to MWOD.io/apply, fill out the application. Even just filling out the application will actually help you get clarity on what your one thing might be. So by filling it out, you're not signing up for the community necessarily. You got to get accepted. You got to pay money, all those things. I get that. You got to wait till the next round starts, but you don't have to wait for the next round to start. Go through the drill, filling out the application, answer those questions for yourself. What will get revealed in those questions even might just be the single discomfort you might want to give a try and see if this doesn't prove itself, that you would be beginning the process or extending the process or revisiting the process of living life as an adventure, not waiting for a vacation to finally be on adventure.
That's a good word. All right. Find out more. We got all of the links and resources in the description or in the show notes, MWOD.io/apply. Thank you so much, Dane.
Thanks, Mitch. Men and Women of Discomfort is our membership community, and we are open to everyone. But keep in mind, our tagline is, "It's probably not for you." If we're wrong about that, or if you want to find out for yourself, you can find us at MWOD.io.